do the thing. All right. Hello. Welcome everybody again. Thank you again for coming to the How to Be a Mandalorian Merc panel with Wampa Clan. To explain that bit, for those who aren't fully aware, the Mando Mercs Costuming Club is a group of like-minded Star Wars fans and cosplay nerds who decided to all dress up like different versions of Boba Fett and go to conventions and parades and all sorts of things, while also happening to be a 501c something charity organization. We're three now. It's changed a couple of times, three or four, one of those. In any case, one of the big things we do is we're actually similar to Make-A-Wish and Toys for Tots. One of our things we do is we raise money for both any charity that wants it, as well as our own in-house charity, Little Warrior International. And the main drive there is we like to make sure that kids who maybe may have had a disaster in the family or health issues or anything like that that may not have had a chance for a great birthday or holiday, we like to make sure that they get the stuff they need, both toys, supplies, visits from us. And we've helped kids all across the world with that in our own charity efforts. And then we've always teamed up with our sister organizations, the Rebel Legion and the 501st, the Rebels and the Stormtroopers. So that is generally what the club is. The club is worldwide. We are in 12 countries plus at this point. A good chunk of Europe, all of North America, a good chunk of South America at this point. Russia, Japan, all over the place and growing daily. We are, for the most part here, the main chapter of the club, covering the state of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont at this point. We recently annexed Vermont and New Hampshire because they wanted to. However, the one in the green and gold over there, they live down, I'm going to call it the south. It's only DC, but it's the south for me.
Debatable.
If you look at the weather, it's the south. Yeah, exactly.
If you're curious, Harry based out in Maryland, I think has 42 official members. So its chapters can vary widely in size. The Wampa is such a great chapter, they will always have my heart.
Yeah. Also one of the oldest chapters in the club. I was talking with the Mandalorian, the Uniter, the founder of our club is a dude who lives down in North Carolina. And so I was talking with him the other day, trying to figure out what the second oldest clan was other than his. And Wampa's up there, because you were one of the original members of Wampa, and you've been around for, what, 15 years now? Something like that. I've been in the club for 11, and 13 years, something like that. Going all the way down to a couple of people who have been in the club for more time than they were not in their lives. And
been longer than half her life, 7 years.
Yep. And just I got this up here. This slideshow is not only members of Wampa, you'll see all of our represented here a couple of times, but these are just other members from around the world, all doing events and parades and cool stuff like that. Now I have officially run out of things to say. No. As far as building goes, for the most part, all of the armor that you see up here was built by the member that's wearing it, or their dad. With a few exceptions, like a few of the helmets, like the tan and bronze helmet in the front there, that was one that I purchased off of someone who knows how to do it a lot better than I do.
Same here. I got mine used on the forums from another member who was
But a lot of the armor itself, like the actual chest plates, knees, all that cool stuff, all of the hard parts of the armor is generally formed by the member who's building it. A lot of the soft parts, same thing, like vests, neck seals, capes, especially capes, all hand sewn, usually by a member or a friend of a member. And the amount of things that you can build your armor out of is actually very extensive. There are a few materials in particular that we recommend above all others, and they're used very commonly. But generally, the sky's the limit as far as what you're allowed to physically make it out of, as long as it is a hard plastic or metal. no foam. EVA foam is one of our big actual rules. And the thing is, EVA foam can be made to look amazing. It absolutely can be. I've seen some amazing N7 costumes and like Warhammer, all kinds of cool power armor. And like Iron Man, definitely seen at least one Iron Man in person that's beautiful in EVA foam, but it doesn't hold up very long is its primary problem. And it usually ends up just looking like painted EVA foam after a couple of uses, whereas the stuff that we're all wearing, the more beat up it gets, the better it looks. Let's see. We are generally a custom organization. Like, as you can see, we're all a variety of shapes and patterns and colors and designs, all generally based around either Boba Fett, Jango Fett, the new Mandalorian series as well. Also, a lot of inspiration taken from video games and comics. Any kind of Mandalorian that's been on a screen, we take inspiration from. We do have a general set of rules that we like to keep everybody following so that we all look cohesive and we all look good. One of the big no-nos is you can't dress up like a member of the New England Patriots, who happens to be a Mandalorian. And I mean, like, go Pats, but still, it's not, it don't look right.
It's not limited to the Patriots.
No, any football team, baseball team,
Crossover.
crossover kits from other franchises. Like, I have seen in person, I've seen a Femme Chef Mandalorian, and it looked awesome. And
the
they,
Disney Lorians are pretty cool.
the Disney Lorians look great. There was a costume group you may have seen photos of all of the Disney princesses and a bunch of the Disney villains. A bunch of them were members of the club who made special suits for the photo shoot. And if you've never seen like a Snoba Fett, like a Boba Fett Snow White, it's actually really dope.
And if you want that as your second kit, knock yourself out.
Oh yeah, we won't stop you. That stuff's cool. We love to see it. Actually, here we go. I got a thing. I got a special visual aid for everybody here. One of the big materials that I think all of us have used is a material that is called expanded PVC foam board, aka Sintra is one of the brand names for it. Foamex, I think, is another one. And it's this nice, light, foldable, heatable plastic. This is actually plastic from an older set of armor. This is my brand new set that's actually going through the application process right now. And one of the best things about it is you heat it and you cool it and it stays put. It'll stay in this shape until you heat it up or just break it. Yeah.
When you go through that process, do you use an air purifier and aerated system?
Oh no, this is like, we buy this like this. It's all, we don't actually expand the foam or anything like that. But no, as far as heating it, yes. It is.
I would still recommend.
Yeah.
Outside.
Most of what we do as far as like shaping and heating and all those things, we definitely recommend using ventilation. Outside is best, or near an open window or a fan, because the fumes are harmless in small amounts, but you don't want prolonged exposure for a whole range of health reasons.
Air outside mask?
Yep, always. Masks, like dust masks, that sort of thing, always good. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pass these out. Put one on this side of the room over here. And give one to these nice people who are standing over here. And so you can feel how light that is, and how like sturdy it is. Please don't try and break it. I don't wear it anymore, but I want to keep it. One of the most fun things about this stuff is that it is readily available at a lot of craft shops. It's available on Amazon, a lot of things like that. But it is also, for those of you who are looking at the back and seeing the pictures of a housing development map, if you make friends with your local sign shop, this material is usually made for road signs and displays and things like that. So you can definitely make friends with a local business and ask for scraps for free.
Most of the time, once they're done with it, they're just gonna
Yeah, they can't use it. Like, that map may have been one that was wrong, or the wrong scale, or just something that it wasn't going to work for the final product. And so they were going to toss it until I showed up and said, hey, I'm making this. You mind if I dig around in your dumpster?
Then sometimes they'll just go, it's like, hey, you know what, we'll set aside a box, just pick it up once every couple of days.
Exactly, yeah. Metal is not particularly represented in this batch, but this dude here This is all metal.
Whoa.
His is all metal. Like sometimes you hear some of these guys walking around and it sounds like a tank clattering its way down the street. His is metal. Like he's not wearing it because his car didn't have room. But metal is great for all the reasons that metal's great. It's nice and durable. If you've got the tools, it's easy to shape and it'll stay in that shape. And it's definitely a material that the more beat up it gets, the better it looks.
The clank clank.
Oh yeah, and that clank. Like I mean, this is cool. This is nice. You know, it's like it makes a sound. But when someone's like clonk clonk, it's like ooh, yeah, like that. That's just that hits me right
Weird
there.
better.
Yeah.
What type of metal do you use?
I just used, it's a mix. It's like, I used some weld plate, just stuff I bought at like Lowe's. Used just scraps that I've had lying around, and then we're just like galvanized steel. Generally, it's like not necessarily like super thin, but it doesn't need to be, like you saw him earlier where he wears plates of metal where it just needs to be heavy enough. Roll the edges usually. I made all mine with a pair of pliers that is like a vise and a hammer.
What about 3D printing parts?
Yeah. 3D printing is eligible for almost every part of the armor.
That's entirely 3D printed.
What do you mean by almost?
There are some things, I mean, a lot of it is mostly just advancing with the times. There was a time where we didn't allow 3D printed chest plates and things like that, just because of how it looked and durability questions. But the technology's advanced far enough and people know how to do it well enough that we changed the rules and we're like, yeah, that's fair game, let's do it.
So you need to get rid of the print lines.
Yep.
Yeah, my gauntlets are also 3D printed and a lot of sanding.
Yep.
Gotta get rid of the print.
Yep. A lot of sanding, a lot of filling, all that good stuff.
But it does give you a great base to start with.
Yeah.
So,
What plastic type do you print with?
all of the types are represented throughout the globe.
Well, with the printing.
PLA, ABS.
PLA usually. Oh, I guess ABS.
It also kind of depends on where you are. Like down south, there are some that don't weather very well with the heat. So
Yeah. Like in Maine, we're usually safe using hot glue, but if you were in Texas, that wouldn't fly.
Yep. It's actually, leaving, like many a piece of armor has been left in a hot car and then it's not together when you pull it out of the hot car. Like actually we pulled my armor out of my car about an hour ago and one of the bottom parts of my helmet is actually not attached anymore. It still looks good, it's still fine, just needs another tack of glue when I get back up to my hotel room. But
Yeah, hot glue is kind of an exclusively northern tool in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. Although it can be useful to hold something in place while you're attaching it with stronger glue.
it's a good triage.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, not necessary.
Like, what's not allowed? Like, could you not like use motors and stuff to like make
So you're saying motors.
yeah, it's there. The list of what isn't allowed is about as long as the list of what is allowed. A lot of it is up to your own creativity. There's a lot of things where you can use it one way and it won't fly, but there are a lot of other things that if used in a certain way are totally good. Like for a while, I don't have it on these gauntlets, but I used to have a set of gauntlets that my phone just clipped into it, and it was all covered and hidden, and like you would never know it was there until I started using it, which was kind of a crowd pleaser because I'd like check my text, just flip open my gauntlet, just start doing Star Wars stuff on it. But if you just glued your phone to the outside of a gauntlet, that's what it's going to look like. Oh yeah, you want to pass that back up?
So you can't have anything that leaves your kit.
Yeah.
So you can't have any projectiles. You can't have anything spring loaded.
Yeah.
That's one of the safety things as far as almost every convention.
no backpack recognition?
You can still have a.
Yeah, you can
As long as it doesn't actually
Yeah,
fire.
you can have it. It looks good, but yeah, I can't ever detach on purpose or on accident.
But like,
I mean, breaking.
Well, if it breaks, but I mean, it's like we've had some folks try and get away with like wrist blades and things that come out of their gauntlets. Which, if they're like something manual where it's like I have to make it and set it, and so it stays put, that's fine. But if it's the sort of thing where if you're just walking and it's just gonna spring out and smack a kid in the face, that's no good.
if I was more to say, like, it would be like attached, and then you have like the gauntlets
Oh.
Kind of like the
That would-
Boba Fett show where
Where it's
it's closed and then everything just cinch closed with a motor.
if you could figure that out, that
Yeah.
would probably be
If you can figure that out, you're in.
Yeah.
You're like my friend.
If you can figure that out, you're going to make a lot of friends.
We're gonna have a lot of missions.
Oh yeah.
What are the rules and restrictions for the weapons that you use? Like, for example, the blasters that Sabine and Boba use, right? Restrictions to it?
So the big thing is if you're going to print them, you can't have any print lines. If you use the Nerf version or the Halloween version, they have to be completely repainted.
We get built in
Yeah,
circles.
like
Fill in
this.
screw holes.
This is just one of like the $5 like Halloween, like buy in spirit Halloween Star Wars blasters, but painted up, sanded down, all the screw holes are filled. It looks like it's all fair game, and yeah, I think I spent $5 on it. Those
Yeah,
are pretty much the same thing.
these were originally a very garish white and orange
Yep.
with horrible sound effects. If you ever get them.
Yeah, just take that out. Don't put batteries in it. Don't bother.
No, it's not even like, it's
Just
not
go.
accurate, it's just also a really annoying sound.
It's just like
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, these were originally the really cheap Hasbro ones. I actually, the other one is broken, but I've got a little door hinge on here for it to slot in there. Like that way.
you know, we like that one up here.
Yeah, it's a good move.
Yeah,
As far as like design standpoint, as long as it's not from recognizable from something else, just like any of the crossover stuff we're talking about. But again, just like bringing Gears of War Lancer in, it's all good. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
I gotta
If
shout
it's-
it out, you don't necessarily need a gun to get
it's
it.
true.
Sure, I am an anti-gun Mando, I have only blades, so that's also an acceptable route, but you do need at least 2 weapons. I believe this is right here.
And then the other big thing is if you're going to use a Nerf, you have to make it not look like it's a Nerf entirely. If we can tell what gun it came from, then we're going to take it back to you.
Yeah, so, but the orange tip still has to be tipped.
That is a convention thing. So we won't require it on application, but the convention may require it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of hit or miss.
And it's something that if you apply in your gun, blaster, sword, whatever has an orange tip, that's fine. That won't be dinged or disqualified because we know that's how it would probably end up looking in a lot of photos. I actually got crafty and I found out the muzzle comes off of this one, so I get to have like the safety tip on the end of it if I end up at a convention that requires it for those reasons.
And having melee weapons can actually be really great. There's a lot of places like schools, movie theaters, where they won't allow guns for obvious reasons. So having a backup melee weapon is very helpful in those cases.
Yeah, it's still got something cool to pose with in pictures, but you're not actually scaring anybody. Also, Gatling guns are great.
Yeah.
Speaking of motors, that one does spin. With actually, when it's fully charged, it's got some like rotational force to it. Let's see. I think we pretty much just hit the Q&A phase of this panel. So if anybody has any questions at all, absolutely ask us anything about being a member of the club, building armor, especially. And I will note this: there's a lot of stuff that I have done in making this costume that I've used on other costumes. This is definitely a lot of the stuff that we learn and do is applicable across the spectrum for any character that needs hard armor or capes, knives, or pouches, whatever.
Yeah, after building this kit, I built all of our Halloween costumes now too.
You don't necessarily need costume experience to make a set either.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a big community of people with tutorials and templates and people just willing to talk to you about what you're working on. So you can come in with this with basically your experience and you got enough time.
Let's start with Wario.
What about lasers on the costume?
Like laser pointers.
Laser pointers.
General,
I
don't know
if there's
if-
an actual like a rule against them, but I would probably recommend against them.
Yeah, it makes
Just
sense.
because that is something that you can get in somebody's eye.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
gun that you saw has a laser on it, but it is set at an angle so that when the barrel comes around, the barrel lights up, but the laser doesn't come out.
Gotcha.
You can use them, but it would be highly recommended that you don't use them in a way that points at anyone.
Yeah.
Like, the red dot scope, not something we're going to be allowing.
Yeah. Back with the black mask.
Is there anywhere that we can take to reference the rules for making the costumes, or like how do we apply to it?
Absolutely. MandalorianMercs.org.
Alright.
I have trading cards, which people can feel free to grab. The website is on the cards, so.
Well, did the URL get changed? It did? Okay. If you search Mando Mercs, Mandalorian Mercs,
Okay.
Bing, Google,
Well,
you'll
then the
find
website
us.
might be wrong on the card.
Yeah.
My old card.
It'll forward you to the right.
You'll figure it out if you Google it.
Our website is both the home of all of our costume requirement lists, where all of our official rules, as well as the best place to go for any tips and tricks and tutorials we don't talk about here today. It's definitely the best place to go. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and they all will all send you to the same place.
At the back.
Color requirements on the
None.
suit.
No glitter.
So like theoretically, Ronald McDonald acceptable?
He
So,
used
Mr.
to
Ronald
be, he used
McDonald.
to be red and orange. And
Once
yellow.
again, it's
I
red
know
and yellow.
this is lamenting the loss of
We
the
went-
McDonald's Mando.
We went to
Color
McDonald's
scheme,
once and
yes.
they lost it.
Color scheme, yes, but if you're like literally trying to make it as like a recognizable color pattern to something else, once
Yeah.
again, reference the crossovers, no crossovers.
Yeah, you can't be a Ronald McDonald Mando, but you can totally be red and yellow.
In fact, the green gold Mando is still reversed red and yellow.
He just repainted it.
And we talked about how you couldn't have the sports team Mando, but having a Mando in the colors of your favorite sports team, totally fine.
Yeah,
As long as it's not recognizable as a pattern.
I'm told I have a Dolphins theme.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, like you'll see on this slideshow, yeah, it's just a wide range of colors. We have people that are like flat one color, all black, all blue, what have you. A lot of people, you can barely tell what their original paint scheme is. They roughed it up so much.
I recommend against the all black. A lot of people
It's
like
hard.
it in their design and then they end up changing it later. It's nice to have a little contrast.
Yeah, it's hard to tell what's going on in a picture. You're just like,
Especially if you have black armor,
Black.
black jumpsuit,
Yeah.
which I actually did not represent.
you got other colors. You have other colors.
Yeah, you got some highlights.
You have the rust.
Favorite brands of paint for painting your armor?
Whatever's cheap.
I
There's a lot of area to cover.
Yeah, Krylon and Rust-Oleum are usually the go-tos, but it's basically
Yeah, if you do
whatever
it,
works.
if you're doing a round can, then yeah,
Yeah.
you can do airbrushing, you can brush it on, but you gotta be careful with that, because you don't want brush strokes in there.
You usually have to sand and then brush on more. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but.
So a lot of times, that will get kicked back, because when we see those lines, the first thing we see now are print lines. And we're gonna say, is that 3D printed, or
Or is it paint?
is it paint?
Yeah.
A little, no, it's just, little hand, right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you right here, buddy. Yeah.
Yep.
How did we come up with the patterns for the helmets? It was, for a lot of it was just stuff we liked. It was just a design that we thought of and we thought looked really neat. Mine, I'll just hold it up here so everyone can see it. This is actually sort of a throwback to an older helmet that I had. That helmet, right there, actually. Same sort of thing, but backwards.
You do that on purpose?
And it was also,
Oh, it's all planned.
in my case, it was also easy. Like, I'm decent at building the armor, but I'm not the best at painting it straight and neatly and all that sort of stuff. So I just picked something that just followed the lines of the helmet and put on the tape, and it was nice, easy, 3-layer, like more than 3 layers when I was doing it, but 3 colors on there. But some people like Paige, explain your helmet's situation, along with just your overall look.
Because I wouldn't necessarily recommend not spray painting, because for most people it's probably going to be easier. I am really bad at the tape, so I kept getting like a leakage underneath, and I was like, well, I'm going to spend like multiple times trying to do it. But this was actually, the plates I actually designed first. Just after the panel, very much like this, I went into the quiet room and I drew my plates down. I was like, oh yeah. But this was designed by my brother in sort of a reverse section to my plates. But it's got a little bird. The wings are going down here. This was all hand painted with acrylic paints. I did use some rubber buff for the metallic bits. So initially I had a blocky, pure colored kit, and I went back and redid the entire thing to have a kit that looked almost identical, but it's like this metal. Yeah. That's enough, that's actually like a degree of separation. One of the big inspirations for the birthing of my armor was actually Sapien Ren, and the bird logo that it has is actually a reference to the Rebel logo. So there's a reason why it probably reminds you of that.
How long did it take everyone to make their armor?
It varies wildly. I have put together an approvable, good to go suit in a weekend before, but I've been, like I said, I've been doing this 11 years, so I know what I'm doing. That said, I started this suit that I'm wearing now in 2019. It is technically not done today.
They definitely will never be.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single person here who would be like, yeah, my armor is 100% perfect, it's exactly the way that I want it, and I want to make no changes
Yeah,
whatsoever.
I started like, what, 13, 14 years ago? Mine's still not done as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So like I've just through procrastination and lack of materials and things like that, it's taken me 2 years to build this suit. Bye, Bill. Go do your PortCom job.
I would say though, a pretty common like amount of time for a first kit for like the basic approval is probably around a year or two. Although there are definitely people that go in first time, do it in a month, and I'm like, who are you? And what sort of superhuman person who are you? I think it's also like if you're doing it with a job and all of that stuff on the side, it takes longer. But if you just spent a dedicated month, then like that's a lot easier, obviously.
Yeah, it's mostly just taking time, doing one bit at a time. Like today I'm gonna cut out my plates, and then to next week I'm gonna have time to sew the flight suit. Things like that.
And part of it's waiting for supplies to get here. Like you think like, oh yeah, let me get a pair of boots, and you have to wait 2 weeks for the boots to get here, and then when the boots get there, then you can make the thing that goes over the boots, and then you gotta do another thing, or you gotta order some cintra, or your medical scrubs to wear as a flight suit. Or the duck lot you ordered to make the black vest.
One of the big sayings we have in the club is there's sort of a triangle of effort, so to speak. And each end of the triangle is time, money, and quality. And you kind of have to pick 2 of those. You can get it fast, and you can have it look really good, but it's going to be expensive, because you're probably just going to have to buy it from somebody. Or you can have it really cheap and really high quality, but it's going to take you a long time. That sort of thing. And there's no right way to do it. It's totally whatever's within your means and skill set to do. There's definitely no time limit for, well, I started and I have to get this done in a year. Okay.
I build 3 kits a year.
That's because you're weird.
For the spider's door. The spider's
grow.
door of the yeah.
For the Spectrum, this is my first kit, and this took me about a year and a half to build with a fairly dedicated schedule. Was I the most recent member of One Plus?
Yeah.
So this was my first time building. Yeah.
Technically, Desiree is old enough now that she's official.
Doesn't
No longer a trainee.
Dope.
So it took me, with everyone's help, I had 0 costuming experience before this. I had a little bit, but nothing. I had never built armor before, but with everybody here's help, especially on the forums, you can go onto the forums, start a work in progress thread, and that is our opportunity to give you guys help in how to actually make the armor if you can't come to armor parties, which is another way to help it. So that's kind of the spectrum.
My question that I already had was actually specifically about armor parties. 2-part question. 1, how frequent are those? And 2, in terms of like unofficial members or people looking to get in, are they invited?
For the first part, not often enough. Because it's
The
mostly
last couple of years, there hasn't been really any.
yeah. So that's mostly just like
It's like any other type of event. The pandemic affected armor parties.
yeah, and like somebody's got to have the space, like the driveway space or the workshop space, and so you're kind of going off that schedule. And then it's like scheduling a game of D&D, It might happen next week. But as far as the second part, are unofficial members invited? Absolutely. It is one of the best ways to get a big jump start or put finishing touches on a set of armor. So we always highly encourage it, and whenever we do finally organize one, we always highly advertise it on our Facebook page and on our forums, just to get the word out. Because Wampa has always been one of the smaller clans, just because Maine, you know, like, we're not a ton of us up here to start with compared to other states, and like 6 months out of the year it's snowing and there's nothing to do. So
Hard to spray things now.
it is very hard to spray snow. Yeah, except take like cool pictures. Like you've seen some of the pictures up here where we just went out one nice February day to a sand pit and just had fun in the snow. But
yes,
but yeah,
everyone's welcome.
Everyone's welcome.
And it will be advertised. Hopefully, we'll be having one this year before summer's over.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of the time, the way that it's turned out, a lot of the official bandos end up spending a good significant portion of the armor party just helping unofficial members. Like, we'll work on our own kits too, and we're not going to build your kit for you in a short amount of time of an armor party. But especially if there's something that is really tricky, like I had a lot of trouble with my knees, and I had a lot of help rounding out the corners and getting some cool techniques. So the backplate is like the classic thing that gets made at the armor party.
Because like if you look at it, it's got a bunch of different curves and bends, and you can't hold something on your own back, you know? So it's always handy to have like a second set of hands for that sort of thing. And so there's a lot of backplates that get made at armor parties.
I have never worked on my own kit at an armor party.
That feels like a lie.
It's not.
No, it's not. I believe it. They've usually been
Oh,
at
wait, no,
his
you
house.
probably worked on the girls one there.
Might have.
What's the process like if someone expresses interest in joining your ranks? Like, how do they do that?
It's a deceptively simple process. Technically, there are only 3 steps. You express that interest, you build your armor, and then you submit it for the application. And technically, it's just those 3 steps.
Join the forums.
And join the forums as part of it.
If you specifically make an account on the forums, that allows you access to all of the chapter pages. And that's how you can locate Wampa's chapter. If you're not local to Maine, that's how you can access all of the chapters. And there's like a very helpful guide of how to find it. Like start with North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, and then you just navigate to your chapter from there.
I highly encourage anyone who's interested in introducing themselves on the forum and making work in progress thread, even if it's just like, hey, I'm thinking about making a kit with these colors. Because sometimes just lurking on other people's work in progress can be a great way to gather inspiration to make your kit, and also you see some cool people make work.
Can't have alien answers.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, just sign up for the forums, search Bando Mercs on the internet, and you get there. And then, yeah, and then start building, express your interest. We're always happy to help and give advice, and obviously set up an armor party and build.
Did you just say that you could be an alien Mando? So like on stilts, Wookiee style?
Yep. Yeah, we've got Wookiees, Twi'leks, Targados,
At least
Rodians.
Rodians.
Yep. Yeah, we had one of the Rodian members was up here. She had a full rubber mask she wore when she wasn't wearing her helmet. And when she was wearing her helmet, had like big old bug eye lenses instead of the standard T.
So when building an alien Mando, so the requirement was for helmets specifically, where you have to have a T-visor and a fully enclosed helmet. Now, if you're building a Wookiee or a Rodian or a Twi'lek, there are restrictions for that helmet. You can't have a fully enclosed helmet, or a Rodian wouldn't have a T-visor. So when building, having a work in progress thread and telling that to the application team, that's how we make exceptions for those groups.
I know I have some photos of alien Mandos in this.
Yeah.
The Wookiee showed up.
Yeah, the Wookiee showed up. There's at least one Twi'lek that's been in here.
Yeah.
And also it's a Gruda,
Yeah.
at least twice.
There's Druida, there's Nolans.
We have an Ewok Mandalorian.
Find pictures of that.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep. That one, this one.
A question about helmets specifically.
Yeah.
What have you found is the easiest process to get started on that?
Ooh, I have an
Scratch
answer
build.
for that.
Yeah.
Well, scratch build.
Well,
That is
no,
correct.
no, that is not the easiest.
That is probably the hardest. So 3D printing helmets has become popular
buying your helmet online from somebody else is also very popular. My helmet is a Hasbro Django 2-piece. So this is like the most basic helmet that you could possibly start with. And even this requires some modification in order to get it approved.
When it comes
once there is
a seam that is normally on it, Molly has made modifications.
you can hardly even see it. This comes as a 2-piece bucket. So you just have to disguise that seam, and that's where the Bondo comes in.
Yeah.
So once again, that goes back to the triangle. Like the Django 2-piece is inexpensive, but it's going to require a lot of time and effort. You can go buy the Black Series helmet. You're going to have to paint it and fill it in. That's way
But
more
it's almost
expensive.
done.
I mean,
Yeah.
they have the Black Series Gotan now too, and that's,
And it looks awesome.
yeah.
And there's a lot of people that make
Yeah.
custom Mandalorian helmets on the forums too, so you might get a cool design. I know there's one I really like, which has like cool, I don't know how to describe it, like, but like they've got like additional designs. If you want something a little more unique, it's worth taking a look at.
I prefer to buy my helmets off of like one of our custom makers. Like this was someone, hey, Tucker met it right there. She actually mostly just has the faceplate and then the back of the dome to fit the horns and the head tails. But yeah, like this is just an ABS helmet that I bought off of somebody. It's the only guy who does the ABS helmet. I regrettably regret that I don't know his name.
The guy on board.
The guy on the forums, because this is like the second lightest helmet that I've ever had. Like I've had helmets that were, I've used that same Django 2-piece helmet that Molly was talking about. I have also had helmets that were made out of full cast resin, which was crazy durable, but very heavy. Yeah, that like resin helmets are a nice compromise if you want something that's probably not going to break when you drop it.
Minor scratch. They start out as a
Hold up,
cardstock
yeah,
template.
the orange helmet there on the table there, also the 2 girls' helmets over there. Those are cardboard, well, like foam, like cardstock, Bondo, and a lot of patience.
A lot of sanding.
Yep. I tried, my first helmet, I tried to do a scratch build helmet, and I rushed it, and it was terrible.
I also tried to do a scratch build, and I didn't even make it to the paint. And not to discourage you from attempting a scratch build, because it is a really cool skill, especially when you do it, and if you have the patience to do this amount of sanding that's required, you can get some really cool custom stuff and have a unique helmet. It's just, it is a skill that you have to develop and practice, and there will probably be at least 2 or 3 failed helmets before you get one you like.
I had 4 before I put my first helmet in through approval process. Now, a dozen helmets since that first one, I think I'm okay, but I still don't want to like go mass produce or anything.
What even is the process for scratch helmets?
For scratch building?
Yeah.
So the process is you print off the templates, cut them all out, tape everything together with like a masking tape, a paper tape. Then you go through soaking them down in resin, reinforcing with cardboard, soaking it in resin again, and then you start with the Bondo, smooth everything out, and then it's sanding and sanding and sanding, and then you'll have some more sanding after that. It's mostly sanding. It's 90% of what you're going to do. So you get it smooth, you get all the ridges where you want them. But all of mine have been different. So there's nobody out there that has any helmets that look like mine. Even just beyond the paint job, nobody has the shapes that I use.
Alright, can you guys use paper mache?
Technically,
No.
like,
So you can use paper mache to get the form, but paper mache is never going to be sturdy enough.
Right.
So you'll have to reinforce with resin and Bondo. Again, if you're doing that, you might as well just skip the paper mache phase.
Right.
yeah,
Sorry, you're going.
yeah, that's okay, it's okay.
One
You
point
then.
What's like the sort of commitments that you make when you join the club?
It's actually a very minimal commitment. Currently, the rule is you have to suit up and go to an event once a year. You do also have to maintain your forum account, which again means posting on the forums maybe once a year. Just to let us know you're still around, still in it, still interested.
And recently, we have opened it up so that your one troop a year can be a virtual event.
Yeah.
So we do things, we'll get videos together and send them out to kids who are in hospital or just, kids who are having a birthday party. So we'll put a compilation video together, and we've agreed to let that count as a troop, just because in today's world, that might be the only thing available.
But it could just be you come to FortCon and hang out with us at the panel next year, and that would count as your troop for the year. We all know that you like FortCon because you're here.
The fun thing is once you start trooping though, it is quite a bit of fun to get together with all of the bandos and just all wear armor together, which is kind of the best part of being the kid.
Oh yeah, like we've been to so many parades and conventions, and events, and things like that. That it's just like, oh yeah, no, well we're not parade. Yeah, it's true. Like there was.
No, it was.
It was on Google Earth.
I'm
We
on there
were
more.
we were in Liberty, Maine, which is if you don't know it, that's not a surprise. It is a very small
Four-building town with a
four-building
library.
town. And we were doing a library event, just hanging out with kids, doing stuff for the library. And a Google Earth car happened to be mapping the town that day. So for about 3 years, if you looked up Liberty, Maine on Google Earth or Bing Maps or one of them, you would see Ark here just standing on the corner.
And I will say, once you put in all of the effort into the armor, you made your plate, you made your flag vest, you got the crew, you're gonna be like, hey, let's put all this work in and I wanna wear it. Like Molly and I, we used to just walk around our university campus in our Mandalorian armor just so we have an excuse to be like, oh hey!
I did the Pride Parade in Portland wearing this year, so. Yeah.
I noticed the
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do have a mic in this helmet here. This is actually a new addition for me. What it is just a cheap wireless mic off of Amazon. And then in this pouch here, which is actually an old entrenching tool pouch, I've just got the speaker and the receiver on that. There are, especially because the stormtroopers in the 501st have been around for so long, there are a bunch of fan-made voice changers and modulators that you can buy right off of a lot of these forums, like ones that will automatically put that little like stormtrooper click when you talk. And then, because that's the easiest way, I don't actually have a modulator or anything on this, this is just what it happens to sound like coming out of a cheap speaker and a cheap wireless rig. It actually does the job almost all the way for me, especially with the echo in the helmet. And I think that whole unit cost me maybe $40. So.
Are there any restrictions to lighting, LEDs or EL wire?
Not that I've heard of.
I mean, it has to look good.
Yeah, like we've had some neon bandos. Like on a temporary basis for Christmas parades, this guy here has actually lined his armor with EL wire, just so we stand out at night during a parade of
Well,
lights
for us, we
situation.
used to put on the portable Christmas lights for
Yeah.
the Christmas parade.
The blue and copper kit that I have there has lights inside the helmet, just kind of blind people to look at me, lights in the jetpack, whatever you can do with it, anything you can physically do and hide them in a way that they glow, but they don't look like you have a piece of EL wire taped to yourself, then
Yeah, I have
you can make anything light up you want.
Yeah, I have a radio pack that has like antenna that light up and switches that light up. Everybody likes to walk behind me and constantly turn them on.
There are people that have like cosmetics coming out of their jetpacks.
Oh yeah.
The one thing I will tell you is when I get your application in, we're going to talk about, look at all the little targets. Yes.
Yeah, you.
I'm just wondering if there's any restrictions on like low paint that's like a little bit hard for
I don't know.
There isn't currently because no one has tried it yet. I will tell you that I have 3 CRLs that came about because of me.
Rules that didn't have names until
I was around.
So like, how would they even know the apertures when they go to the dark?
It's not that we wouldn't know it would glow in the dark, it's the quality during the photo. So I don't know a lot about that paint. Most of it is brush on as far as I know. So that would be the only drawback. If it looks like it's brushed on and the quality is you just up the bar, then it will probably be 8 feet back, but if you're good with the brush,
That'd be a good
go
for
ahead and glow.
Yeah, actually, that would actually be really cool for accents.
We have one we call,
You just have to sand it and make it look good. Because all of my armor is painted with a brush. I cannot spray paint to save my life.
point and squeeze.
You
We do have,
I will find a way to mess it up.
we do have one that was approved recently that is, I think, named highlighter. So there are, yeah, there are colors and giving off that vibrance, that's completely acceptable, as long as it looks good.
So with the visor material, what is most commonly used for
Shade 5 grinding, replacement visor.
That is what I use. It's just like you can pick it up at Lowe's, Home Depot, anything like that. It comes as a full face unit, like the big face shields that you do have to trim down. But it's already dark enough. That is one of our rules, is that when you put the helmet on, whether it's reflective or dark enough, we can't be able to see your face if someone's taking a picture with flash.
Tvisor.com still exists.
They do. They do.
Tvisor.com is the easiest place
That's a
to
good
get
one
the
also,
visor.
especially if you've got an unusual T-visor shape.
Yeah.
It'd be nice, or you don't want to, you're not
You don't
comfortable
want
with
to cut it
cutting.
yourself. Yeah,
But
because it's a little funky. Like I had to trim. This visor was supposed to fit perfectly in this helmet. Classically, it didn't quite, so I had to trim it, and it's a little. Even as many as I've made, it is a little nerve-wracking because this is the one that I've got. If I snip this wrong, I'm gonna cut it in half.
My reflective one was bought by someone on the forums who I believe doesn't sell them anymore. But there are other people's non-reflective ones. I think there's also someone on Etsy who sells good.
If you're good enough with like car window tint, that is also an option, as long as you can avoid the bubbles that sometimes happen in it. If you've seen a car with a bad tint job, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Then you, most people just hot glue them in so they can pop them out and repaint their helmet or fix them. Or you can, mine are there with Chicago screws, just 2 bolts. One side is glued to the helmet, the other side is screwed into the visor. And a bunch of washers.
What do you cut it with?
Scissors.
Yeah, thick scissors, tin snips I use for a bunch of things as well. Tin snips, actually, yeah, I bought them to snip tin. But as it turns out, yeah, they were great for trimming Sintra and other thick plastics and things like that. It was chew right through it.
In terms of square footage, on average, how much like Sintra or not, but how much plating will a kit use? Not counting
But you can get a full kit out of a 2x4 thing, provable, not like all of the tons of bits and pieces extra, but you can get an approvable kit out of a 2x4 sheet.
Yeah, because technically, a couple of us here are what we would consider a light kit, which is the lowest amount of armor provable, which is just the collar plate, 2 torso plates, middle chest diamond thingy, ab plate, and knees is the minimum. A back plate is, and gauntlets, you need the gauntlets. Back plates are optional if you don't want to have a cape. If you don't want to have some other full back covering, you do need a back plate.
Yeah, but you can do a cape or a backpack instead.
Yeah, as long as it covers your entire back. So it looks like you might have one, but no, you don't.
Unless you're doing the post-imperial, so anything from Mandalorian, you have to have a backplate regardless of cape or not.
You have some seats over here. Actually, the back plate is the biggest square footage on the whole thing.
As an example, I am an example of a medium kit, so a Jango Fett style kit. I have thighs, knees, and shins. So that's kind of the more complete armor, like armor story.
I used to have a medium kit where it was all of those plates plus some extra arm protection. I also had protection up the sides too. That kit, that's his heavy kit. Bill here, the gentleman who was not wearing armor, his is definitely a heavy kit because he's mostly encased in his armor. The heavier you go, the thing that I recommend most people do when going through applications is start light and go from there. Because the more stuff you add onto your armor, the more plates, the more accessories, that's the more stuff that the app team has to look at and is potentially against the rules. However, if you start light, you go streamlined at the beginning, you can always modify up from there.
Any particular regulations with regards to costume under the armor?
Yes.
There are soft part CRLs as well. Basically, it has to look like a cohesive suit. So, like you see, I have a set of dips, just a matching shirt and pants. So it looks like a solid flight suit. But I mean,
Medical scrubs are also very. Oh no. Bed sheets.
Bed sheets.
Bed sheets that I dyed myself.
That's scrubs.
I have the scrubs here.
So it does.
The reason why scrubs are nice, specifically the long sleeve scrubs, is that they come in a lot of colors, so you can get it. The dickies also come in a good amount of colors, but yeah. Also,
Scrubs are also lighter. They do breathe nice.
Going to the bathroom is so much easier in a two-piece flight suit than a one-piece flight suit.
yeah. And when you've got, since all of the Mandalorians are required to have belts, you can really not tell very much if you have these.
Ooh, nice.
Well done.
We do in fact have Tuscan Mandos as well.
Yes.
It looks a lot like a Tuscan helmet. Yeah. But then as far as the rest of the soft parts, the flak vest we call it, is really the only other absolutely required part. And that's just something, not only is it a required part of the armor just because of like Boba's got one, Jango's got one, the Mandalorian's got one, it's also the best place to actually physically mount your armor. There are a bunch of different attachment methods that we allow.
I use magnets.
He uses magnets. Mine is partially Velcro, partially sewn on, partially strapped on.
Mine's dry clean all day. My plates are trimmed and fabric and sewn on.
The nice thing about the flak vest though is if you design it correctly, it basically becomes it's like zone removable.
Oh yeah.
The only piece I have to take off is my collar plate. The rest just stays on my flak vest. And that way I don't have to make sure I get the alignment right every time I put on the armor.
So that must, there are rules around that basically, but most of them are taken care of. And does it fit your body when you make it? As long as it fits well, looks good, and doesn't.
We want you to have mobility so you can stand and sit and kneel and all that stuff in photos, but we don't want you to look like, you just rolled out of bed and you got size XXL pants on and you don't need them. They're bagginess issues, but for the most part, anything goes.
And it's making sure that it's cohesive. So if you have a heavily weathered kit, that your soft parts are also weathered to match. Or if you have a clean kit, that your soft parts are.
Yeah.
With the face.
What types of weapons are allowed?
Weapons, anything.
Yeah,
Sky's the limit. We've got everything from daggers to gravity hammers to
No lightsabers.
no lightsabers. Okay, so the sky's not the limit. Lightsabers are not allowed.
Unless you're a camp character who is wielding a lightsaber.
The dark saber is not allowed unless you are one of the 3 characters that use the dark saber.
Any kind of blaster or sword, spear, as long as it's safe for attending a convention or an event, and as long as it looks Star Warsy, sporsy.
You can have anything that is seen in any show, comic, any of that, or you can make them yourself. I have several that are custom made, one-offs. So as long as it doesn't appear from a different franchise or have a projectile, you're fine.
Mandalorians are known for picking up random weapons because they might.
Is Warbla allowed?
Warbla is allowed for accents, but again, it has kind of the sturdy issue. It's not as hard as Sintra, so it won't last.
Yeah. That said, if you know how to use Warbla, you already know how to use Citra. It's just a thicker, less pliable thermoplastic.
Pretty much every rule we have on materials you can use are there to save people money.
Yeah.
There are people who could make an absolutely durable and wonderful looking EVA foam Mandalorian. But if we allow that, the people who can't absolutely make a wonderful looking, durable EVA foam Mandalorian might try. And then they're just kind of wasting a ton of money and when they could have bought a sheet of Sintra for $20 and have the same thing. So,
I'm trying to remember one that I've used. I've used some weird stuff, but he is on the applications team. So he actually gets credit. Oh yeah, my personal favorite is actually right here. These gauntlets right here are a piece of piano hinge, which is not weird. We use piano hinges on gauntlets all the time. But that is actually a Target toilet brush holder cup. It is the perfect length and like cylindrical taper that we just cut the end off, cleaned it up, sanded it, put in the caps for the hinges, and shaped it to look cool. And that was it.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're not.
They don't. Yeah, they kind of discontinued that model. So like.
But I'm sure there's something similar out there. But there's a lot of stuff that we'll creatively use. Like a lot of people for like little cookies coming out of their stuff, they'll put like Sharpie pads on there. There's a lot of like greaves that you can find. There are things that you wouldn't expect, but that as long as you paint them up and you use them in the right place, will give you something cool.
These black vest joins are dog collars that I got at the dollar store.
as far as the weirdest thing that's come through the club, we've had people try and make leather helmets. We've had cardboard that was covered in tin tape. We've seen it all. Car mats. We had a guy who built a rubber flak vest. He tried to wear that once and realized that it was a bad idea because you can't breathe in that.
No, I mean, I know why he couldn't breathe in it, but like, what?
Why did he try?
Yeah.
Because it was something he had on hand, which is 90% of your kit.
Usually when something like this comes to the app team too, it's because the person working on it just kind of tried to work on the kit in a vacuum and they didn't engage with the community to get feedback. We have many members who are happy to give feedback and help you through the process of building your kit and giving you suggestions like maybe don't wrap yourself in rubber.
We have a build group on Facebook, and we have the forums. So forums is always going to be the best place to go for advice. That's where you'll get members from the app team. The community on our build group, wonderful. It's all constructive criticism. It's all in the right direction.
Yeah, you'll never be told that your idea is bad and you should feel bad. Like, we just don't do that.
You might be reminded that something isn't improvable.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Because ultimately, we want everybody to join. Like, we want everybody who signs up for a forum account to get in the club, because then we're just that much cooler.
The more mandos you have in a picture, it's exponentially cooler. Like one mando, awesome. 2 mandos, even better. Like 100 mandos.
Oh, yeah, guaranteed. Like, you've seen these photos come across the screen, and like, yeah, you've seen the onesies and twosies, they're cool. But then we have like the big group shots at Celebration where there's 200 of us standing in one spot. It's like, that's just cool. We've probably got time for one more question, and then we're out of time. Anybody else? We got that last one. I'll squeeze that in.
Favorite group members.
Now you won't get shy? No, I don't know. Favorite church ring? Yeah, that'll take too long. Yeah, but so.
I just wanted to say that, like, I think the first time I knew about the Wampa plan was like in 2016, 2015. It's just really cool to see you guys are still like going out there and running.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A little more gray, a little less hair, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll do this until I stop. Like one of our current, yeah, right. I know what I said. One of Wampa's members is one of the oldest members of the club. He's in his 60s. And
That's a great age.
yeah, we have a huge.
Which is actually funny, because one of the oldest members in the club is in our clan, and he's in his 60s, and one of the longest running members in our club was in our clan until we moved.
Yeah.
And he's in his 20s.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we got kids, we got retirees, college students, metal workers, tech support folks. Like we got everybody in this club, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah. With that, it's 4 o'clock now, and I'm sure the next panelist wants to get out.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
You know, time. All right, I'm not gonna lie. I'm one of the art chairs, and we realized today it's like, oh, we didn't schedule anybody to be working from 3 to 4 today. Whoops. Time ain't my friend, but
If
thank
anyone
you.
would like a trading card, feel free.
Trading cards are up front if you want one.